This is Scott Spears, and today we're joined by America's favorite housekeeper, making a rare interview appearance, Alice from the Brady Bunch, Ann B. Davis. Miss Davis, how are you?
I'm just fine. How you doing?
It's a pleasure to speak with you today.
Well, thank you.
Now, I kind of want to start this interview way back. Can you tell us about your childhood?
Talk about way back. I'm going to be 83 in a few weeks. That's way back.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I was born in Schenectady, New York, and raised in Erie, Pennsylvania. Educated in Michigan. Went out to California in 49.
Wow.
My soul is circulating, my soul is circling South Dakota somewhere saying, where are you?
Well, Miss Davis, when did you realize you wanted to be an actress?
Pretty early. My twin sister and I used to do little recitations and things when we were kids. We got beyond that. My mother was very interested in amateur theater and community theater, which was very popular back in the 20s and 30s. And my brother was a professional dancer for quite a number of years. He was in the National Company of Oklahoma and Called Me Madam on Broadway and that kind of thing. So I was pretty interested pretty early.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah.
What was the first role when people recognized you and said, that's Ann B. Davis?
Well, that was Schultze. They probably wouldn't say Ann B. Davis. They'd say, oh, there's Schultze, because the name got to be familiar before I did.
And for our listeners who don't know, tell them where Schultze came from.
That was the Bob Cummings Show. That went on the air in January of 1955 and ran for 5 years. And he was a photographer, and I played his assistant. I was madly in love with him, and he was just interested in the pretty models that he photographed. That was the general plot, so to speak.
What was Bob like to work with?
Oh, he was wonderful for me to work with. I mean, gosh, I was just breaking into the business, and he was a famous movie star, which a lot of the young people now don't remember, but that's okay. I was just terribly impressed with the fact that I was working with him, and he was very generous. He was very generous in the sense that, well, Bob wouldn't say that, Schultze would say that, and so I'd get a good line or the laugh line or tag or something like that, and I thought that was pretty nice.
Absolutely. Turned out to be a great role and a great memorable role.
Yeah, well, I got my 2 Emmys for that.
Yeah, what's it like to win an Emmy?
Well, I'll tell you, suddenly you think you're going to faint, but you don't. And you stand up there and you grin a lot for the next few days.
I can imagine.
I've got some wonderful grinning pictures of me.
Oh, I can imagine. What a great role, and certainly well-deserved Emmys for those.
I had a good time doing that one, I'll tell you.
Now, of course, our audience would be remiss if we didn't ask this question. How did your role as Alice on the Brady Bunch come about?
Well, as a matter of fact, I got to be part of a smallish group of character women about the same age and same price and same kind of comedy. And so we were always up for the same roles. But Sherwood Schwartz had seen my work. We had never met, but he'd seen my work and thought that I might be an addition to the way that he was putting together the Brady family with the combined families. But he'd never met me, so he flew me from Seattle, where I was doing some nightclub work, down to L.A., drove me out to the valley, and I met him and talked to him for half an hour. Then they flew me back to Seattle, and I played that night. And the next day I took another plane and flew back to L.A. to shoot the pilot.
So right away.
That was pretty exciting right there.
Absolutely.
Oh, boy.
Now, Ann, who was Alice Nelson to you?
Who was Alice Nelson to me? Well, she was a very good part, for one thing. And, as like any other actor, I was very happy to be working. I had never done a children's series before on television. I'd done children's theater during my theatrical life, but there was good writing, there were good people, and it was fun.
Absolutely.
And it lasted forever. I mean, it's 40 years ago, you realize, since we shot that thing.
And still going strong.
Well, it's still going someplace.
Absolutely. Now, Ann, what was it like when that show ended? Because it didn't have a great big farewell episode, but boy, did it become popular.
Yeah, well, you see, the interesting thing was, I thought, we were all disappointed that it didn't go on for another year or two, but that's, you always are. But it was interesting that when we went off the air, they started rerunning a lot of things, And it was a time of expansion of television, so there was a lot of hardware and not very much software. And they began to run some sort of questionable series in the afternoons when kids were coming home from school that were a little racy for the time, and the mothers began to object. And so they began to either use Gilligan's Island or Brady Bunch. And it ran and ran and ran and ran, and so we picked up a new generation of children every year. That's why it's lasted so long.
And it's been absolutely wonderful.
It's been a ball.
Now, Anne, you've got to give me a thumbnail sketch of the following people.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That was kind of a demand there, wasn't it?
Yeah, so a little bit. I'll do my best. Who'd you have in mind?
Robert Reed.
He was a very troubled young man because he was classically trained and wanted to do more important roles. He had done important roles before, a series called Defenders, and movies and things. And he really wasn't terribly excited to do the Brady Bunch. But after it got going, he thought, okay. And he did a heck of a job. Took all the kids to England one year as a present to them, which was pretty nice of him.
Florence Henderson.
Oh, I love her. She's a real hoot. She and I are good friends to this day. We keep in touch with each other as much as we can.
Sherwood Schwartz.
I love him. Well, he invented the character and has protected the character all these years. And I like him very much personally and have a great deal of respect for him.
Now, Anne, there have been some Brady Bunch...
And his son, Lloyd.
Lloyd is great. I talked to Lloyd not too long ago. Great guy to talk to. Absolutely.
He has a great memory. He remembers everything that's ever happened on that show.
Anne, after the original Brady Bunch series ended, was there a particular... Because there have been so many spin-offs, the Brady Variety Hour, the Brady Brides, the Bradys, which was the drama series.
Yeah.
Was there a particular favorite you liked out of that bunch?
Well, it would be hard to pinpoint one because they were all interesting. Because for one thing, it got us all back together again. I mean, as living together as we did those 5 years. I mean, 5 hours a day. 12 hours a day, 5 days a week for 5 years is a lot of togetherness. And so it was great to get together with them again and to see how they'd grown up and how they looked and how they acted. and it was great fun. I don't know which one I liked the best. I wouldn't be able to. I just like being together with that group of people again.
Always kind of like old home week.
Well, very much. And we were lucky we ever got any work done. We were so busy catching up on the news.
Now, then after these Brady series with the original cast kind of ended, these movies came about, the Brady Bunch movies.
Yeah, well, I made a cameo appearance in at least one of them, didn't I?
As Schultze.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Schultze, that's right.
That was great.
As the truck driver, Schultze. That was a little bonus. I didn't expect them to do that, but they did that. I thought that's fun.
What did you think of those movies?
Well, I had reservations about them. Matter of fact, I went to see the first one 3 different times trying to find the right audience to see it with. Because the first time I saw it, it was a small house, and they're mostly my age, which at that time was in my, 60s or something. And they were not amused at all. So I went back to see it at another time when there was a younger audience. And they just thought it was wonderful. And I asked some of the kids in the play I was doing at the time, how did you feel? They were young, dancers and stuff. I said, gee, I found myself tearing up all the time. It was so great to see the family together again. So, there you are.
That's great.
It's always fun to run into some of the old fans after they've got, some of the new, the older fans, now that they've gotten older.
Right.
So many times I've met somebody, a man in a 3-piece suit with a vest and a briefcase. And he looks at me and says, "Oh, my goodness, it's Alice. Hi, how are you?" Suddenly he's 12 years old again.
That's right. Knocks about 30 years off of him.
Yeah, right away.
Absolutely. Now, Anne, I almost called you Alice there. Anne.
It's been done. Okay.
It's hard. For somebody who were to meet Ann B. Davis on the street and only had known you from television, what would they be surprised to find out?
That I'm older.
That you've aged.
Well, yeah. As I said, I'm 80, about to be 83 years old, and I was in my early 40s when I made the original series. So it's been a while, and I think that, but they recognize my voice, and if I talk to them, they recognize my smile, and I've got checkout people. Don't I know you from somewhere? And that kind of thing. And I'm always pleased to tell them where they know them from. Ask them if they watched television when they were a kid.
Now, Ann, you've done so many wonderful series, Brady Bunch. You had the great character of Schultze. What do you consider to be your career high?
Well, you can't talk about a series in that sense because you've done 100 and something episodes of everything. I think I had my most fun on stage. And I was very lucky in winding up my career on stage with a year-and-a-half tour in Crazy for You, in which I ended up playing the last 6 months on Broadway. That was I really loved that, let me tell you.
That sounds like a great high.
Oh, boy. And then 2 years ago, they did a concert version of Follies in Sullivan, Illinois, where I'd once done a theater job. And I got to sing Broadway Baby. And that was fun to do.
Oh, that's a great song.
Yeah.
Great song.
Yeah.
Ann, you kind of, though, have now retired.
I'm trying the best I can.
And people like me keep calling.
Yes.
And why have you made that choice to retire when so many actors and actresses just go on forever?
Well, don't you think I've gone on forever?
I think you've went a long way, but I'm sure people would still love to see you and hear from you.
Well, let me tell you something which you're too young to understand. I can tell by your voice. That acting is a very high energy profession, and when you get older, you begin to lose some of that energy, and you just can't get around the way you used to be able to get around. And unless you want to not do your best, you stop doing things that you can't do anymore. It's prettier that way.
So you want to leave on top.
Well, I certainly don't want to leave on the bottom.
Very good.
Right.
Very good. And many years from now, what's the epitaph going to read?
I think anybody who knows me at all is going to realize that I am very content to be with Jesus Christ. And he has taken over a great deal of my life in the last 40 years.
And you've helped a lot of people.
And I've loved a lot of people, too.
And made a lot of people laugh.
That's the fun part.
Absolutely. Well, Ann, you have no idea what it means for me to have you join this program today. I mean, I know you don't do these things often at all, and I certainly appreciate it. And
Anyway, it was fun talking to you.
thank you. You take care.
Okay, bye.
Ann B. Davis, WMRN 14.